he took a team that was consistently 9-7, 9-7, elevated them, elevated Ryan Tannehill from pretty much a league average quarterback to above average, and some really good years in there. I think Vrabel's gotten the most out of this team. Now the end of the stretch this year, that was the worst stretch that they've had with Vrabel. So yeah, you want to rectify that, but I still think he's one of the better coaches, and that's the thing. Like, if he ever got fired here in Tennessee, someone else is picking up the phone tomorrow to hire Mike Vrabel. So that makes me think, yeah, you want to stick with him.
This report is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. I'm Michelle Knezovic for 102.5-106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Bobby and Rex Road. Chase and Michelle.
Caroline, Willie, D-Base.
Company.
Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
102.5 and 106.3.
Cranks it, he scores. Sides of the one big possession.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
All the big topics.
That's what people want to know about.
Mixed with some entertainment.
So funny.
It's not funny.
Give it a minute.
This is Chase and Michelle with Chase McCabe and Michelle Knezovic.
We got a great show for you. Even if we don't, who cares?
Chase and Michelle, presented by Hair Club. Hair Club, love your hair, live your life. On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
4.8, right to trigger, inbounds to Robbins, hands off to Magnon with 3-2, drives to the bucket, to the right corner, 3 for the win, yes! Tyron Lawrence, right corner, and Vanderbilt scores that signature win, 66-65 over Tennessee.
And there you have it. That's how it sounded on the Vanderbilt Sports Radio Network and on 93.3 Classic Hits. The great Kevin Ingram on the call. Vanderbilt gets the buzzer beater at Memorial Gym last night to knock off in-state rival Tennessee. What a win that is. Memorial Magic at its finest. Welcome into Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, Michelle Knezovic, Nick Keyser, the reporter, here with you. And, I know some people that went to the game last night. I wish I was there. We were at a fun event, Michelle. We were at Nash Vegas for the Predators, but that was definitely cool. But what a game, what a win. That is the signature win that Jerry Stackhouse had been looking for. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Chase. You know I love when we start our show off with a little college basketball. What a game last night. When you and I were both at the Nash Vegas event last night, and I came around the corner because I was following the game on my phone, and I'm like, Chase, they won on a buzzer beater. Because I was checking, and I saw 8 seconds left, 2-point game, so I pulled it up on my phone, and I'm in a little hallway in Bridgestone and watched the final play. Love the play that they drew up. I mean, Tennessee, Vescovi misses his foul shot, 2-point game. They could have tied it, and, 4 seconds left, they draw the play up. 3, the scene there, incredible. They were going to go, if they lost that game, it would have been 12 straight. Tennessee has owned this rivalry as of recent. So, statement win on a buzzer beater. Very exciting. But on the other hand, for Tennessee, not too concerning a bit, but there's still time to get their things together before the tournament is here.
Look, there's somebody on this show that's had some concerns about play under a head coach, but
I know you have. And
I'm not going to make this negative against Tennessee today. I'm going to make this positive towards Vanderbilt because one, I love the I know in sports or in basketball specifically, if you have the look, take the shot. They could have very easily gone for the tie and sent this thing to overtime. But Tyron Lawrence had the look, takes the jumper, the 3 for the win. And if you're a team like Vanderbilt and you're in that situation, go for the win.
You've got a grace problem.
I don't know what is popping up on my computer here, but
like, what was that?
Yeah, sorry. But I love that. I love going for the win like they did, and they got it. And it's I think the biggest win that Jerry Stackhouse has had since he's been there, no doubt. But it was awesome.
Yeah, and the hardest thing, people always like, well, it's Vanderbilt. Well, this should be a tournament team. I mean, they kind of shot themselves in the foot earlier this year. They lost some non-conference games that they shouldn't have. There still is a slight chance that they could sneak into the tournament. I mean, if they pretty much win out, you don't have to win out, but this next big stretch is going to be pretty big for them. They have a chance to make the tournament this year, but they're a good team. And I think one of the biggest, I guess you could say, something people choose to just like point out for Vanderbilt is that the recruiting, the coaching, some games. I mean, the Alabama game. Talk about this span, right? They lose to Alabama. I mean, it was like 100-40 or something like. I mean, it was the sixth team in the country, in-state rival with Tennessee. I mean, it just. This is why I love college basketball. Like I was telling people, I'm like, I feel like Vanderbilt. I feel like they could maybe pull the upset. I was pretty confident, but this is a good team. That's the thing. They have grown. They would beat themselves earlier this year. So I think that this win could be the reason why could be a factor in the reason, Jerry Stackhouse holds on a little longer. I don't think he should be on the hot seat. I know a lot of people do. I know a lot of people at our station thinks he should be on the hot seat, but I mean, I do think that he has done good things here.
Well, it's a hard job for one.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing about Vanderbilt that has always kind of cracked me up is for so long Kevin Stallings was a consistent get that team to the tournament. And he had some teams that I think underachieved. I think he had some teams with Shane Foster that probably should have gone further than they did. Right towards the end of his tenure, he had some teams that should have gone further than they did. And fans got to the point where it was like, all right, we need a new voice. It's time for a change. Well, you bring in Bryce Drew. That doesn't last very long. Now Jerry Stackhouse, and there hasn't been, they haven't made it to the tournament. There hadn't been success. And I think that's not all on them as the coaches. It's just the fact that they haven't had the depth. They haven't had, the cupboard has been very, very empty. I think this team, Willie and I were texting back and forth last night. By the way, happy birthday to Willie Donick.
Oh my God. What a great birthday. Willie D coming off the big Vandy win. Happy birthday, Willie Donick.
We were texting last night, and his whole thing was when they're healthy, they can play with just about anybody. That they have some depth off the bench. They have freshmen that are very talented, and it's just putting that all together. And I think we saw that last night. That that was a healthy team where everything went right and it all came together. But can they make that happen night in and night out? Because they've gotten run out of the gym by some teams that they shouldn't, and then they go and they turn around and they beat Tennessee. And look, it's at Memorial. Memorial Magic is a real thing. I'm not discounting that. If this was at Thompson Bowling, it could be a different story. But it's a huge win for them, and one that they need to build off this momentum and ride it for a while.
Yeah, no, I agree, Chase. And they have the opportunity to get some, something that would definitely help their tournament resume is winning at Kentucky in a bit. They're going to go play in Rupp Arena in the next couple of weeks here, and they can do it. I mean, Kentucky, I think, had one of their best games here earlier this year, won by, I think, about 15 points. But, I mean, this Vanderbilt team has gotten better, especially after that Alabama game. They had some issues. He ended up sitting one of the players, and then they figured it out last night. But if they could get some statement wins on the road, like I mentioned, that Kentucky one in Rupp Arena in a couple of weeks, the SEC is a tough basketball conference. So if you get some of those tough wins, good wins are gonna help them rather than those losses that'll hurt them. So if they could get a couple more wins, they definitely could have a shot. It'll be hard, but they could have a shot to sneak in. And even the NIT, I think that still would be, a good outcome for Vanderbilt as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you this, and this will make you excited. So last night, I get home and I was like, okay, I got to go watch the highlights of this game because, like we mentioned, we were at the Nash Vegas
Very
event,
proud of you.
which was a very cool event that the Predators put on. And so I come home and I watch the highlights of the game, and I'm just like, okay, I'm amped up now.
Mm-hmm.
I am ready for the SEC tournament here in Nashville.
Yay!
I'm so excited because I will tell you, and I'm trying to think when this was now. You can help me with this because I've slept since then. But I guess 4 or 5 years ago, it was pre-COVID, but when Tennessee and Kentucky played, both were very, very good teams. One of the best basketball games I've ever been to live in the semifinals at the SEC tournament, and Tennessee beats Kentucky. I mean, that was such a loud environment between those two fan bases. So
that would have been.
I want that again.
Yeah, that would have been 2019. It was my senior year because I came to Nashville. I didn't go to the games, but I was here just in the city. Just for the whole environment. It was spring break. But, yeah, that would have been the 2019 year. That was the Admiral Schofield, Grant Williams class, my senior year. That was really interesting. I had some Tennessee fans yelling at me on the streets. It was a little terrifying. But, that environment before COVID hit, and, Tennessee had that great team. They had the talent to, win it all that year. Auburn was great. I think that was the year that Auburn went on the big run. That might have been their Final Four year. I think 2018, 2019. They were great that year.
I think Auburn actually beat Tennessee in the final.
They beat Tennessee in the final, and then they beat Kentucky in the Elite Eight, the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight that year, and that was the year that Auburn went to the Final Four. I mean, the SEC was stacked that year, and then LSU, I think, was even ranked that year as well. So I am so excited for it to be back in Nashville. I went as a fan last year to Tampa, but, I mean, just to have it in Nashville, and so many fan bases can come to it because it's so centrally located, it is going to be exactly a month from today. It'll be day 2 of the SEC tournament, so very exciting.
But, 2019, that year, that tournament and that postseason is when my issues with Rick Barnes really started, because that was a team that I thought could really go for it, and they didn't. So I was disappointed as a college basketball fan and a sports talk radio host in Nashville, Tennessee.
Wait, are you a Vandy fan or a Tennessee fan?
I'm a Vandy fan, but I want, it helps my job if Tennessee does well. So I want them to do well. And I've never hated Tennessee, but I grew up a Vanderbilt fan, and I'm still a Vanderbilt fan.
And you're even more a Vanderbilt fan today because they just.
I'm feeling good today. Willie is going to come in some Vanderbilt gear. He's going to be smiling ear to ear. It's a good birthday for Willie D, and it should be. You can weigh in on our phone and text line 615-737-1025. That is our phone number. But coming up next, we'll shift into the Titans. What kind of pressure are we putting on Mike Vrabel? Because I feel like this keeps coming up, whether it's with the fan base or people in the know. We'll discuss that coming up next. It's Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every Wednesday at noon.
That fits the mentality of what they're going to do.
Outkick 360's Jonathan Hutton joins Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace to talk all things Titans and NFL.
Much more creative in how you go about calling certain plays.
He's got opinions and insights on the two-tone blue.
That doesn't mean that you can't have great or don't need great quarterback play.
Catch Hutton every Wednesday at noon on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You can track through the savannas of Africa. Wait on the magic moment on the Great Plains of North America. Or find the thrills of Patagonia. You can book your dream hunt at the SEI Convention, coming to Nashville for the very first time. Come find your adventure February 22nd through February 25th. It's the ultimate sportsman's market, a place for every hunter. And this year, it's happening Music City style, with special performances by Lee Brice, Big and Rich, The Frontman with Gretchen Wilson, and of course, Leonard Skinner. It's a celebration of the outdoor lifestyle, February 22nd through February 25th. Come find your adventure. Just log on to safariclub.org. One more time, that's safariclub.org. This convention will sell out, so reserve your spot today. Come find your adventure.
Hi guys, it's Mark. Valentine's Day should be a day to look forward to, unless you have erectile dysfunction. Don't ruin this Valentine's for you and your special someone. It's time to get the solution you want, not depend on the pills. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. It's backed by 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge University. Are you ready to make Valentine's great again and get the results you want in the bedroom? Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and blood flow analysis, totally free. You'll also get a gift that can produce rapid and powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that one, guys. Trust me. This is an unprecedented offer worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify totally free. Call 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your life back. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now to qualify. 615-576-5000.
On the Thursday edition of Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace, we'll continue to bring you coverage from the Super Bowl, plus what a former Titan had to say to Titans fans. All of that coming up from 11 to 2 on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace.
Taking you through your mid-morning.
Love it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. This is Chase and Michelle, presented by Hair Club. Hair Club. Love your hair. Live your life.
Where'd you find those crazy characters?
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Do you think Vrabel should be on the hot seat? Because I feel like he kind of enters the season on the hot seat. 7-game losing streak, switches out the offensive staff, GM gets fired. I feel like now it's kind of like, okay, you need to win.
I wouldn't say it's a hot seat's interesting, right? Because it's like, yeah, I mean, everybody has to produce. I mean, in any job that you have, theoretically you have to produce, or there's a chance you're going to move on. But hot seat usually is usually interpreted as this guy hasn't done a great job, therefore, he's on the way out. I don't see that with Vrabel. Again, I think he took a team that was consistently 9-7, elevated them. Elevated Ryan Tannehill from, pretty much a league average quarterback to above average and some really good years in there. I think Vrabel's gotten the most out of this team. Now, the end of the stretch this year, that was the worst stretch that they've had with Vrabel. So, yeah, you want to rectify that, but I still think he's one of the better coaches. And that's the thing. Like, if he ever got fired here in Tennessee, someone else is picking up the phone tomorrow to hire Mike Vrabel. So that makes me think, yeah, you want to stick with him.
That's Steve Palazzolo from Pro Football Focus on Mike Vrabel. Back here, Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3. The Game. Is Mike Vrabel on the hot seat? And it's funny to bring this up to me. I mean, I think this is a funny topic because I don't think he's on the hot seat. Now, I know last year was a disaster, but it was 1 year. There's a lot of factors involved in that everybody can share a piece of the blame. But, I don't know if I would say that it's worth saying that if they don't make the playoffs this year or they don't win this year, that he gets fired. I think that would be a mistake. Mm-hmm. Now, would I put it past this organization to do something like that? No, they fired the general manager in the middle of the season, and I think that was part of the factors that led to that 7-game losing streak. So I wouldn't put anything past him at this point. But I agree with what Steve said. The moment Vrabel gets fired, he's on the street for 5 minutes before he has another job.
Oh, yes, he is.
I think Vrabel is a very good football coach. And people that, like I said, I was watching his Zoom press conference about Tim Kelly, and it cracked me up. It's some of the comments of people going, you need to be fired. You're going to get fired if this doesn't work. And I'm like, do you guys... I mean, do you remember anything? Like, they were in the AFC Championship game just 3 years ago.
They were the 1 seed last year.
Yeah. Now, did they lose to the Bengals in the first round or in the divisional round? Yeah, they did. And that sucks. Was that on Mike Vrabel or was that on the quarterback throwing 3 interceptions? I think it was on the quarterback throwing 3 interceptions.
Exactly.
I don't think it was on Mike Vrabel. But, and Vrabel's not perfect. There has been times where I've gotten on here and I've questioned some of his decisions. I've questioned, I question, why did it take you so long to name the guy that was in-house your offensive coordinator when it feels like that's probably what you were going to do all along? I question that. But guess what? It's his prerogative. He's the head coach. He can do what he wants. He doesn't like things getting out. He likes things going on his time. And he's put the skins on the wall to this point to allow him to be able to do that. Now, is there a higher standard? Do you want to get to the Super Bowl? Do you want to win the Super Bowl? Absolutely. But I do believe with the right roster, Vrabel is the head coach that could do that for this team.
I agree. And, as far as, some of his decisions of naming coaches, yeah, that's all stuff we care about it because it gives us more things to talk about. But, at the end of the day, that I don't think that plays a factor in how they play on the field. I completely agree with you in the divisional round when they were the 1 seed last year. Ryan Tannehill threw 3 interceptions. But, yes, he is your quarterback. I don't put that on Mike Vrabel. I put that on Ryan Tannehill. And for people to say, he should be fired if they have a bad season next year, a lot of times the grass isn't always greener on the other side, people. Mike Vrabel is a great young coach. If he were to get fired, like the audio we just played, he would be picked up very, very quickly by another organization because they realize the value he has. And I personally, listen, we don't know what could happen. Anything could happen. We saw J-Rob get fired in the middle of the season this year. But I definitely do think these decisions will warm up his seat if things don't work out, right? I mean, this is his offensive coordinator. He had a say in hiring Rand Carthon, I'm sure. Making switches with some of the coaches. Tony Dews going to tight ends, needing to hire a running back coach. Some of the movement within the offensive side of things, right? So will this draft have his name on it? Who are the players that you're going to draft, right? Are they going to be able to be factors right away? I think all of that will play a role. And this is really the first time Mike Vrabel will have that opportunity. But, just because maybe you're going to make mistakes, right? So, and a lot of times you don't know how they're going to turn out. You don't know like the A.J. Brown one. Right now it looks really bad, but also that's a long contract. Is he going to be able to play up to that level, every year of that contract? In the first year, yeah, it looks great. But, these are big contracts, and it's not just the first year that matters. It's the second, it's the third, it's the fourth, it's the fifth. So, I think a lot of these factors of the 53-man roster, these coaching changes, a lot of things have been changed this year. We still don't know who's going to be the quarterback next year. We can assume Ryan Tannehill, but with the quarterback market right now, we really don't know. Or will they move up to get a guy? Will Rand Carthon want to draft his quarterback? I think the seat should warm up, but for people saying he should be fired, what I say to you is the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and look what he was able to help do to this organization who was mediocre, and he was able to help make them, with J-Rob, J-Rob's help too, make them relevant, make them a contender in the AFC. And really people don't ever count them out because of Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, and I love when fans and certain afternoon show hosts are always quick to go like, well, they need to be fired because of this performance. And Jared's not doing that with Vrabel by any means. But they will do that, and I sit there and I go, okay, well, I can state some examples of when you have a successful coach or successful GM and you make the change and then the team just goes completely the other way. I mean, I sat here, the first part of my career was talking about a Titans team that was awful because, I lived the end of Jeff Fisher and then the Mike Munchak years and the Ken Wisenhunt absolute debacle dumpster fire bleep show that was. And then Mike Mularkey, things start to turn around because Amy Adams Strunk takes over as controlling owner. She makes that change. Mike Mularkey puts some culture into this team. They start winning again. John Robinson comes in, and then you go to Vrabel. But look, those were some lean years with really bad decisions being made by the organization. And that's why I'm so critical of Amy and critical of the Titans with how they handled the John Robinson situation. And I'm not going to rehash all that, but I think it could have been fair to fire him at the end of the year, but doing it when they did it, I don't think helped things. But as for Vrabel, you got a really good coach right now. And you look at do you want to be the Browns? Do you want to be some of these teams that are changing coaches every couple of years?
No, you need consistency.
I don't think so.
You need consistency at the quarterback and the head coach, right? I mean, a lot of offensive line would be nice too. But, you need consistency with your head coach, if he has a vision, your GM, and your quarterback. On the text line, we have an interesting text I want to get to quick. This is from Michael in Clarksville. Is Vrabel a great coach, or has he benefited from a crappy division? I think this is interesting. Okay. Vrabel has been able to beat the Chiefs. He's been able to beat the Bills. As far as playoffs, he has a 37.5% playoff win percentage. It's 3-5 in the playoffs. Yep. 54% win percentage in the regular season record, 79-67-0. Vrabel's never gotten a tie. Fun fact.
There should be no ties.
I hate ties. That's a discussion for June. But, the AFC South is a crappy division. Okay, but, it's still the NFL, right? I mean, every week is a challenge. And, has he benefited probably from winning the division because this division isn't as hard as some? But, teams change year to year. Like, look at what we thought the Broncos were going to be coming into the season. Oh, my God. Like, who's going to win that division? And then the Broncos sucked. So right. I think, it's easy to say the AFC South, look at it right now and say that because the Colts really fell off the last couple years, or last 2 years, I'd say. But, okay, now the Jags are turning the table, and they're on the come-up right now. Who knows what Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence will be able to do next year. They could make a deep run in the playoffs. They made a bit of a run this year. So I think, to say they're in a crappy division, I think that the divisions change. And in the NFL, you don't have to go through full rebuilds. Look at the Eagles, what they were able to do last year to this year.
Yeah, they won a Super Bowl 5 years ago. It kind of went back down. They made a coaching change, which I didn't really agree with that. When they fired Doug Peterson.
Yeah, not a lot of people did.
I questioned that. Now, they got lucky because I think they got a good guy now, but I kind of looked at that and gave him a side eye of like, really? This guy just won a Super Bowl for you. But look, the division is crappy. I'm not going to deny it.
Right now it is.
That.
Yeah, right now it is.
Right now it's not good. And I don't deny that. And yes, you have to take advantage of those situations. But I still think when you look at some of the things that Vrabel's done as a head coach, it's been good. Mm-hmm. And I think that this team with Rand Carthon now in this collaboration between he and Vrabel, now they have to revamp this roster. Can you fix it all in one offseason? No, but can you make some pretty big swings at it? Absolutely. GMs and former GMs and people in the know that have been talking about the Titans have said, look, there are ways to do it, and there are ways to manipulate the salary cap that you can, move some stuff around to make it all work. Maybe not to the extent of adding an Aaron Rodgers and some of the big things that are out there, but they can do those things, and then they're right back in contention and there with Jacksonville. Because now, going into last year, it was, okay, they got to beat the Colts. Mm-hmm. Now it's Jacksonville. Yep. Jacksonville is the team that everybody's going to look at as being the one to beat in the division, and that's fine. But I'm not going to give it all to it's a bad division.
I agree. Because he hasn't had good rosters.
Right. And he's had injured rosters and things like that. What do you think? Do you think Mike Vrabel is on the hot seat, and should he be on the hot seat? 615-737-1025. 615-737-1025. That is our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And also a nice piece by Jim Wyatt on TennesseeTitans.com about former receiver A.J. Brown and some of the things he had to say. Yes, we're going to talk about A.J. Brown. We'll discuss that coming up next. It's Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Matich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What's up, everybody? Michelle Knezovic here for Superbook Sports. And listen, It is the final drive to the playoffs. We got our final two teams, Chiefs and Eagles. I've been on the Eagles train for a while now. I think it's going to be a close game, but the Eagles are favored by 1.5. So it's pretty much a pick 'em, but I am going to take the Eagles minus the 1.5. And one thing I also am loving is the over at 50.5. And there's no better place to wager on that than Superbook Sports. It's my official sports book because it features the best menu of prop books in the business. Plus, you can check out their special odds boosts and promotions at superbook.com. And it should be your official sports book because there's 3 decades of odds making experience in Las Vegas, and there's no better place to wager than Superbook Sports. Win some money as one lucky team wins the championship. Download the Superbook Sportsbook app today. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
The big game is finally here, and so are huge savings at Electronic Express. Come into any of our convenient locations and save big on 4K TVs from your favorite brands like Samsung, LG, Sony, TCL, Hisense, and more. Electronic Express has huge savings in every department. 4K TVs, computers, appliances, housewares, Bluetooth speakers, and more. Save up to 40% with up to 36 months free financing. Score amazing deals in-store or online at electronicexpress.com. Electronic Express, we make it happen.
Hey, you think mortgage rates are still super high? Well, think again. Rates have plummeted to a 5-month low. Hey, Willie Donick here. Call my friends at Loan Pronto now to see how low rates are. It may be time to do that refinance you've been putting off, or time to get back to house hunting. If you're like a lot of people, you've got way too much credit card debt right now, and you're getting fleeced with 20+% interest charges every month, or maybe your current home rate is over 6%. So if that applies to any of you, listen, you can get a quick, easy refi at Loan Pronto. Wipe out all those cards. Close in about 14 days and cut your overall expenses by $500 a month or more. How does that sound to you? Right now, Loan Pronto is doing refis with APRs in the 4s. So call now to take advantage of this big rate drop. Get those credit cards to zero. Start that home improvement project, or get out of that 7% loan you were forced into last year. Here's the phone number, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
The National Wild Turkey Federation is celebrating 50 years of conservation delivery during this year's Convention and Sports Show, set for February 16th through 18th at Gaylord Opryland Resort and Convention Center in Nashville, Tennessee. Come celebrate the golden anniversary with members, volunteers, partners, and countless outdoor enthusiasts. You can expect the same great nightly events, quality entertainment in the watering hole, and the latest gear from more than 450 companies featured in their exhibit hall. For more info, go to nwtf.org.
Social Furniture's tax refund sale is going on now. You will save up to 50% at every department. Huge markdowns. You don't want to miss this opportunity to make your home spectacular. We have everything for your home in stock with no waiting. And hassle-free same-day delivery makes it easy. Pay no money down and pay no interest for 1 full year during Social Furniture's tax refund sale. Don't wait. Come in today. Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in the Richland Creek Shopping Center. And save, save, save.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Chase and Michelle podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to theGameNashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
I got some good news. Taking you through your mid-morning, this is Chase and Michelle, presented by Hair Club. Hair Club. Love your hair. Live your life. On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Later today, tune in for Stillman & Company live from Radio Row, brought to you by Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in the Richland Creek Shopping Center. Pay no money down and no interest for 1 year right now during their tax refund sale. Back here, Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, taking your texts and your calls. Should Mike Vrabel be on the hot seat? 615-737-1025. That is our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Michelle, you and I are in agreement. No, he should not. Correct?
No, he should not. Correct.
Reporter Nick, what do you think?
No, not really.
Okay.
Unless, like, next year they win 2 games or something, or some outrageous, dumpster fire, which I highly, highly doubt is not going to happen. Yeah, sure. But right now, at this moment in time, absolutely not. We have
Adam. Yeah, I was going to read a tweet real quick.
Perfect.
Adam Brown has tweeted at both of us. The Titans fired their GM, sending a message about the state of the roster. So if that's the case, how can you possibly also blame the head coach that has proven to be one of the best in the NFL? If the roster if it's the roster he's coaching, is that a fireable offense? I say no.
No.
I mean, look, I think the guy that should have gotten blamed for the 53 is the one that is not employed.
So here's the thing.
And that's how Amy Adams Strong looked at.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Completely agree with Adam. But now I think the difference is if Vrabel does have a say in the 53 moving forward, we won't know. We'll hear the collaboration talk. They're both going to collaborate. But moving forward, the pressure comes with if you are going to have more say in this 53-man roster, if you are going to play a big role in picking the players that you want, then there's the difference. If they don't perform, then you do put that blame on him moving forward.
Yeah. And I think that would be fair at that point. But now, and I said this when Carthon was hired and we were talking about this collaboration and everything. Now the pressure, and even now with hiring Tim Kelly, the pressure is on Vrabel. That doesn't mean hot seat. That just means that, okay, now everybody's going to look at you. So you're right. If they, if they win 2 games next year, then he probably does get fired. But I think that if they make some significant improvements to the roster, the offensive line being the number one goal or number one thing you got to do outside of re-signing Jeffrey Simmons, this team likely makes the playoffs, and this conversation is a moot point.
Exactly.
But let's go to what do we got on the text line?
Raymond on the text line says, I say Vrabel has 2 years to get it right unless this year is a complete dumpster fire where they end the year with a top 3 draft pick. Okay, that's fair, right? So pretty much along the same lines as us. Another texter, Skylar from Charlotte, says, Vrabel is an excellent coach with a mediocre roster. That's why his 3 playoff wins he had are Vrabel specials. Let him and Carthon build for the next 2 years. Okay.
I support that. I support that completely. And it depends. Now, let me put this caveat in. If you stick with Tannehill, then I think you're doing 2 things. You're trying to build it back to kind of where it was to win a division and see what happens in the playoffs. And you're also having to find your quarterback of the future. They have to do that in the next couple years if they stick with Tannehill and they don't just say, no, we're going to move on now and trade up and try and get their quarterback in this draft. They could do that, but I think if they stick with Tannehill, that's kind of the plan for the next couple of years. If they go all in and go after Rodgers, like some think they might, then that does change things because that is the organization. That's everybody saying, all right, we're going for it. This window, we have knocked the window out. It is open, but that means that you have about 2 years. And Aaron, would say like, hey, Vrabes, I'm going to give you 2 years. That's going to be what I'm doing right now. And we're going to go for it. We're going to go win a ring. And then if you don't make the playoffs, then yeah, somebody's getting fired for that. And it probably would be Vrabel. So there are different scenarios with how this could look.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, to your point of whether you go with Tannehill or stay with Tannehill or you go get or try to get an Aaron Rodgers or something like that, I think the important thing to know is you also, though, need to keep in mind, if you go with Rodgers, you're only going to have him for 2 years. So you need to know what you're doing at quarterback next. And for Ryan Tannehill, if they stay with him, like look at this draft. Is your guy in this draft? Is your guy in next year's draft? Because you are at 11th right now. And if you fall in love with a guy, you could have the opportunity to trade up. You know that the Bears have the number 1 overall pick. It would have to be a big package because there's other teams that are up there that are probably all wanting that number 1 overall pick. But, you need to be thinking about that. I think that every year you need to be evaluating the draft for a quarterback because these generational guys only come around so often. And look how much it can change an organization when you get a Patrick Mahomes, when you get a Burrow. It doesn't matter what your receiving core looks like. Look at Patrick Mahomes. He has a mediocre receiving core, but they're in the Super Bowl because they have Patrick Mahomes. Look at Joe Burrow last year. They had a crappy O-line, but they were in the Super Bowl because they had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but because they had Joe Burrow.
615-737-1025. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chris wants to weigh in on the Mike Vrabel conversation. Chris, welcome in.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I wouldn't argue that Vrabel's seat is hot. I would argue that it's slightly warm. And the only reason why I say that is because, look, the facts are what they are. The Titans are on a 7-game losing streak. If they go into next season and they start losing if they start 0-3, 0-4, then I would think that his seat starts to warm up. But you also have to look at the decisions that he has made at the coaching level. He is the one that decided to elevate Todd Downing, and every step since then, with the offense, really regressing since then, has really been on Vrabel making that one decision. And now we're having to go in with Tim Kelly. Now, Tim Kelly could be a great hire. We don't know. But I think from here on, he's going to be judged now by those two decisions, elevating Todd Downing and then reverting back and choosing Tim Kelly. And like I said, if we start out 0-4, 0-3, 0-4, then I think you have to say, yeah, his seat is getting hotter. But that, I would say it's warm for right now. But let's wait until the season starts to really start making judgments.
Yes.
Thanks for the call, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Level-headed. We love that.
That was a good call.
Yeah.
I think he's spot on with that
Mm-hmm.
because and I think the Todd Downing thing, you and I talked about this yesterday, and you've brought this up quite a bit, that he wanted to interview Tim Kelly before he hired Todd Downing, and the Texans told him no.
Correct.
So I think that right there, it kind of makes you wonder where was Todd Downing on the list? Were there some others that he talked to and couldn't get? It sounded like he couldn't get his guy, and then he finally did once he was not under contract with the Texans anymore. So Todd Downing wasn't a good hire. It as an offensive coordinator, he wasn't a good hire. And I know there's been a couple people that have pointed to, some stats that will tell you that there was success and that the injuries, had a lot to do with it. I'm not going to subscribe to that. I don't think it was a good hire, and they've made the change, and we'll see what Tim Kelly can do.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Kelly, I think, if you're a fan and you're looking at this and we're looking at this, I mean, he's coming in with a clean slate. Yes, I know he was a part of that offense last year, but he has finally now full control over that offense. So I think you do need to look at it like a clean slate. As far as the Todd Downing, it really is hard. I know that you're pretty confident that it was a bad hire. I don't think it was a good hire because, you want your offensive coordinator to be able to be creative with the players that you have and overcome and make the players look the best they can out there, play to their strengths, play to their weaknesses, right? So I do think, though, the injuries did play a big part. I mean, the offense, when they had Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, I know the injuries hurt, but that offense could have looked way, way different. So it is tough. I don't think he was creative enough with some of the play calls, but he also, the personnel he had. So it's what came first, the chicken or the egg?
A fantastic saying. Coming up next, we will give you the daily power play. The Predators aren't in action until Saturday, but we'll talk to Greg Wyshynski of ESPN, get his thoughts on the Preds and around the NHL. That's all next. Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Want a chance to win tickets to an upcoming Preds game?
Yes.
Tune in to Robbie and Rexroad every weekday Preds game day at 8:45 for Preds Pick to Click. Guess a goal scorer and win.
I'll take Roman Yost.
Matt Duchene. Pick to Click is brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Visit tjandersonhomes.com to see why they are referred so often. And by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Download their app today.
Preds Pick to Click.
We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
All right, boys and girls, the final drive for championship for the championship is here. It's the big game. It's this weekend. And there's no better place to wager on the football title tilt than Superbook Sports. Superbook features the best menu of prop bets in the business. Plus, you can check out their special odds boosts and promotions over at superbook.com. They have over 3 decades of odds-making experiences in Las Vegas. So guess what? It's Superbook. No better place to wager than my friends at Superbook Sports. You can win some money as one lucky team will win the championship. Will it be Kansas City? Will it be Philadelphia? Philadelphia minus 1.5 right now in the big game. But the one that really stands out to me is that total, 51. I am leaning with the over with both of these offenses. I think it's going to be a fun game. That is for sure. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Bob's Steak and Chop House in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Hi, this is Chef Mark at Bob's Steak and Chop House at the Omni Hotel. Looking for a romantic dinner with that special someone? Be sure to join us and try one of our signature dishes, like our Australian cold water lobster tail, flash fried to perfection, and tossed in lemon butter. Did I also mention we've won the Wine Spectator Award of Excellence 7 consecutive years? Come join us for a memorable meal here at Omni and be sure to ask for Chef Mark.
Attending an event downtown? Dine at Bob's Steak and Chop House in the Omni Nashville Hotel. Celebrate Nashville's chefs and diverse food scene throughout the month of February with Dine Nashville. Scheduled events include one-of-a-kind chef collaborations throughout the month and Restaurant Week, February 20th through 26th. Reservations and more information can be found at visitmusiccity.com/Dine Nashville.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
You're gonna feel a puff of air.
Jung's Optometry has set their sights on staffing up.
Try the next line. Hey, Kim, can you tell our 2 o'clock we're running 15 behind? Sorry, we're a bit backed up today.
He needs an optometric technician to keep an eye on it all.
Where are the dilation drops?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game and on Instagram at 1025 The Game Nashville.
Hey!
Oh, yeah. And like us on Facebook, too.
Well, you've got the whole world listening. What do you got to say?
You're listening to Chase and Michelle, presented by Hair Club. Hair Club. Love your hair. Live your life. On 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app. It's time for the Daily Power Play.
And the score! A power play goal for the Predators.
Covering the Predators and the NHL.
With a shot that stopped by Saros.
Now on Chase and Michelle.
Back here, Chase and Michelle. It is power play time, but hey, Preds fans, if you want to win tickets in our lower bowl section 102, just text the keyword Superbook, all one word, to the game text line at 615-737-1025, and you will be entered to win. Win with 1025-1063 The Game, and you can win with Superbook. Chase and Michelle, Chase McCabe, Michelle Knesvik with you. We say hello to Greg Wyshynski of ESPN, covers the NHL for them. He joins us every Thursday at this time. Greg, how are you, my friend?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Just ready for this final drive to the postseason, and let's see what these Nashville Predators can do. They did not have a good outing Tuesday night when they returned from spring break or the all-star break, whatever you want to call it, that the NHL has put in there. And, you know, John Hines and David Poile have preached consistency and trying to find that consistency with this team. They had the meeting before the all-star break. They won 3 in a row. They looked good. The guys that needed to play well were playing well. They didn't get that Tuesday night. So How do you get the consistency out of the Nashville Predators, Greg? We're all dying to know.
Well, the All-Star break broke their momentum. Now they get like one game from like January 26th to like February 11th. How are you supposed to keep the momentum going if you're not playing, right?
Right.
I'm half joking. I mean, I do think that the All-Star break does come at an opportune time for some teams and maybe at an inopportune time for others. And, you know, like you said, the meeting happens, they get rolling a little bit, and all of a sudden they're sitting on their hands for a few days, and it kind of like saps a little bit of what was going right. And, you know, that Vegas game was a real frustrating one. I think that everyone internally and externally probably had that game circled in the calendar of, okay, let's see if we can keep this thing going. Vegas obviously is a team that has been reeling a little bit. Mark Stone out of the lineup. You know, they were a team that you, in theory, should take care of, but it didn't work out that way, obviously. And so the question marks return after what was a pretty promising end to the I guess the quote unquote first half of the season. It's not really the first half, but you know, that's how we kind of phrase it when it comes to the All-Star break.
Yeah, Willie Donick, the play-by-play for the Predators, says it's the second semester that we've gone into. I think I like that. We know that there are guys on this team. Matt Duchene is certainly one of them. That Roman Josi, they have to play at their best because those are the guys that you have targeted to be your top guys. But Philip Forsberg is certainly one of them. He's got 19 goals on the season to this point. To me, that number should be higher. Where do you think, if things were going just 100% right for Forsberg, where do you think his goal total should be at this point?
Oh, I have no idea. Like, I guess commensurate with where it should be last year. But I mean, like, you know, I think you see his goal total through the lens of his contract. You see his goal total through the lens of where the league is offensively, where obviously we've seen year-over-year goal production increases in this league. So I couldn't tell you where his goal total should be. I could tell you that it probably in totality should be higher than what it is. But I mean, that's the story of the team a lot this year. I mean, we've talked about this a few times where, you know, it seems like this team might be turning the corner offensively, then they'll all of a sudden they hit the skids and it reverts back to being a team that struggles. And, you know, there are obviously, you know, players in this lineup that haven't performed up to expectations as well. So he's just, you know, part of a larger problem, I think, on this team this year.
Talking to Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. All right, if I am Dallas and Winnipeg in the Central Division right now, you know, I'm feeling pretty good about my season, but I'm starting to kind of turn my head and look over my shoulder a little bit because there's a team out west in Colorado that is starting to heat up. They're getting healthier. You and I have talked about this before, that once you start getting guys back, watch out. They're still going to be the team to beat. I might even go as far as, with them being, I think, 12 points back of Dallas, that they could make a run even for the Central if they continue to stay healthy. But do you agree with me that Colorado's coming and everybody should watch out?
I think so, but I think that's probably more of a warning for the playoffs, to be honest with you. I think right now, knowing what their injury situation has been for most of the season, where their place is in the standings, and again, chasing two teams in Dallas and Winnipeg that aren't really giving an inch. I mean, it's one thing to say that the Avalanche could reel off a bunch of wins in a row, and I think they have that ability. Obviously, we've seen it before, but Dallas is stout. I mean, you know, that win last night over Minnesota, I think, was a declarative statement that, you know, they had been kind of dancing on the head of a pin for a little bit insofar as going to overtime, I think in 4 straight games. That was a real solid win last night for them, and I think was a steadying win for them. They're both good, Winnipeg and Dallas, and I don't think they should be too worried about Colorado overcoming them. But playing them in the playoffs is going to be a different situation. And the thing about Colorado, though, is that it's not the same team as last year. I mean, even if they get everybody back, and, you know, I think I saw Landeskog is finally starting to skate again. I wouldn't be surprised if they did the Kucherov thing with him and just kept him on IR until the playoffs. I mean, why create salary headaches where you don't need them? I mean, they lost some people off of last year's team, in particular Nazem Kadri, their second-line center. So the expectation has always been that they're going to have to improve this lineup to defend that cup and to be the dominant force that they can be again. And I'm intrigued to see how they approach this deadline. I mean, again, it's not the same team. They do have some issues. They're not as dominant as last year. Do the management for the Avalanche look at this season and say, okay, we push all in and try to get ourselves a Jonathan Toews, try to get ourselves a Ryan O'Reilly, which would be a pretty hilarious reunion there with the way things worked out when he was a younger player. Or do we kind of like roll with what we have and give some of our younger players experience and understand that this is still a very young team with a young core, and it's not necessarily a year where we have to push in to win now because we've got a few cracks at this.
Greg Wyshynski is with us. So, the Central Division always gets, a lot of praise in the West, and rightfully so. I mean, I get it. It's pretty stacked. But I look at the Pacific and this battle for that division right now. It's very tight. I mean, it could be Vegas, Seattle, Los Angeles, Edmonton. Calgary's not out of it by any means at this point. But if you get that I guess it would be the first wild card spot and could get the winner of the Pacific. I mean, do you view that as, especially if it's a Central Division team that gets that spot, that maybe the winner of the Pacific Division could be vulnerable in the opening round of the playoffs?
Completely, I'll give you two reasons. None of them have Jake Ottinger, and none of them have Connor Hellebuck. Right? Like all the teams in the Pacific Division have flawed goaltending in one way or another, which is kind of amazing when you think about the fact that Calgary spent all that money on Jacob Markstrom, and he's been a kind of a trouble spot for them this season. It's been the law of diminishing returns for them. So just by virtue of that, you're going to have a puncher's chance against any of those teams in the first round of the playoffs. But, like you said, it's a really competitive division, not only for who might finish on top, but who might finish on the bottom. I mean, it is kind of amazing to think that the space in between the wild card and the top of that division is so narrow that you could easily go from leading the Pacific to being on the outside looking in the span of like a week and a half.
Real quick before we let you go, a lot of deadline talk is starting. Bo Horvat was the first domino to fall when it comes to big trades. One, what did you make of the trade, and do you think that is setting the tone for what we could see over the course of the next few weeks?
Well, that was a trade made of necessity by the Islanders. They had to do something. They've been searching for a second star to play alongside Matt Barzal. And the only way you can get one is through free agency trade or to draft one and wait. And in this case, they made a trade and got the free agent, and signed him long term. And the contract, the numbers aren't terrible. It's just the length of it. I mean, you're buying up a lot of years where he might be past his peak. But you got to remember that it's not about the 8 years for this team. It's about 2 years for this team, i.e. the 2 years they've been in a brand new arena that they paid for, and they can't all of a sudden fall off into obscurity because there's a lot of money on the line. They sold a bunch of jerseys the other night with him just being on the team. That's what you need at the Islanders. So they had to be aggressive. It's going to impact a couple things. It's going to impact the amount of money that Dylan Larkin gets from the Detroit Red Wings. They're kind of similar in the sense of what they were looking for. And I think this contract probably gives a little bit more clarity to that. And, I think it hopefully will open up the trade works to teams that might have been looking to trade for Horvat, will turn their attention to other centers. And for me, the big name still out there is Timo Meier, the winger on the San Jose Sharks. I think he is, for me, the biggest game changer offensively that could be available. And I think you'll see something in the neighborhood of what Vancouver got for Horvat, but probably maybe even a little bit more considering, just how good Meier is.
Well, Greg, appreciate it as always. We'll do it again next week, and talk to you then.
You got it. Take care.
That is Greg Wyshynski. ESPN joins us every Thursday at 9:45 as a part of the Power Play. Coming up next, we get back into the Titans. A former general manager gave his view yesterday on the Titans and their quarterback situation. We will discuss that. You'll hear from him next. Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hey, it's Jared from my official sportsbook app, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. We all have our systems when we bet, from picking the perfect upset to coming through injury reports the night before the game. But there's one thing every bettor should include in their system: the responsible gaming tools available on FanDuel Sportsbook. These tools help keep your play in check and under control. Tools like time limits, so you don't unknowingly spend more time on the app than you intended. Wager limits, to help you prevent from betting more than you should. And you can even take a timeout, which pauses your account for as long as you may need. FanDuel wants every bettor's experience to be about fun and entertainment. So visit FanDuel.com/playwell and make responsible gaming part of your system. That's FanDuel Sportsbook app, my official sportsbook app. So let's make sure that we're enjoying the games and doing so responsibly. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. If you have a gambling problem, please call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Blackberry Smoke's Brothers and Sisters Ryman Reunion.
Yeah, I can feel a good one coming on.
This Thursday and Friday night, Ryman Auditorium.
Are we waiting for the thunder?
Blackberry Smoke.
My pony ride out of this one horse town.
Tickets on sale now at Ryman.com. Sponsored by PNC Bank and Access, proud partners of Ryman Auditorium.
There's never a good time for your furnace to go out, especially in the winter, but it's always a good time to call Lee Company. Our heating and air conditioning pros are available 24/7. No heat? Don't wait. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000. Our expert technicians will diagnose the issue and fix it right the first time. When you're cold, you need someone you can count on to bring the heat. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job?
Not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
Or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am Hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
At 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, we recognize our veterans, active military, and first responders with the playing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
This is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Now, your Game Center update.
Down goes the number 6 Tennessee men's basketball team last night in Memorial Gymnasium at Vanderbilt. Tyron Lawrence hit a three-pointer at the buzzer to win 66-65 over the Vols. Lawrence reacted after the game.
Yes, sir. Coach Stack, he believes we can beat anybody. We believe it also. We haven't beaten them since I came here. So that's been a goal of volleyball, and we got it done tonight.
And a few deals went down last night in the NBA prior to today's trade deadline at 2 p.m. D'Angelo Russell is off to the Los Angeles Lakers, while Russell Westbrook heads to the Utah Jazz, and Kevin Durant was moved late last night to the Phoenix Suns, joining Chris Paul and Devin Booker. And Albert Breer reported yesterday that your Tennessee Titans are to hire Chad Brinker as their new assistant GM after 13 years with the Green Bay Packers. I'm Nick Keyser for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
1, 2, 3. I think it was a good game. Had a couple of big plays.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
All the big topics.
That's what people want to know about.
Mixed with some entertainment.
So funny.
It's not funny.
Give it a minute.
This is Chase and Michelle with Chase McCabe and Michelle Knezovic.
We got a great show for you. Even if we don't, who cares?
Chase and Michelle, presented by Hair Club. Hair Club, love your hair, live your life. On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hour number 2, Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, Michelle Knezovic, reporter Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday. Appreciate Greg Wyshynski for joining us. We'll talk some college hoops to end the show with Casey Alexander, Belmont Bruins basketball coach. So looking forward to that. UT gets a loss last night as Vandy beats them at the buzzer at Memorial Gym. Awesome win by the Commodores. Michelle, before we get back into the Titans, I haven't even brought this up yet. And I'm not a huge NBA guy by any means, but how about KD
Wild.
getting traded? I mean, wild night in the late nights. Like I'm getting Woj bombs in my sleep of this stuff happening. But with the trade deadline today, KD goes to Phoenix. I think that's huge.
So Matt Ishba, and I may be saying his name wrong, but he just got 57% ownership of the Suns, and then less than 12 hours later trades for KD. How about a I am him boss move? Yeah,
I mean, they're going for it. And look, Phoenix is obviously they were in the finals a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They needed something. I mean, they definitely needed to make a push because Chris Paul's getting up there. Booker needs some help. So I think if you can get KD with a good attitude, this is going to be a good move for them, but he's got to buy in.
Well, here's the thing too. I mean, KD didn't come out and say it. He wasn't as vocal as Kyrie saying, I want to trade. I want out of Brooklyn, but your head coach gets fired earlier this year. James Harden had already left. Kyrie was having off the court issues. You have Ben Simmons, but the team, there were some good role players, but obviously those three superstars that went there in the Harden, Kyrie, and KD, thinking that they're going to try to make a dynasty there, it didn't work. They didn't mesh together. It didn't work. So, Kyrie wants the trade. He heads down to Dallas, which I don't love that. I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah,
But, I mean, if I'm KD, what a great situation to go to, right? You go to Phoenix, you're with Chris Paul, you're with Devin Booker. I think one of the problems is, though, the Phoenix had to do a lot to get him, and they gave away some of their role players, which could affect them. But I'm excited to see those three play together. You got a great point guard in CP3, and now you got two great shooters in KD and Devin Booker. So I love it. I really do love it. I don't like the Kyrie to Dallas because Luka should be handling the ball 97% of the time. And I do think that there'll probably be an adjustment period with those two guys on how to get comfortable with essentially just who is taking care of the ball. And that's Luka's team. So it'll be interesting to see how they integrate Kyrie. Saw him play the other day, but Luka wasn't playing. So that'll definitely be interesting down there. And then Russell Westbrook is with the Jazz. So
yeah, because D'Angelo Russell, it's an 8-player trade. That was
wild.
That was bizarre. It was a 3-team trade. And, like Mike Conley, the former Grizzly, who's, I love Mike Conley. He's one of my favorite players.
Yeah.
He's just very steady Eddie. He's a part of this going back to the T-Wolves, but D'Angelo Russell goes to the Lakers. I texted our resident Laker fan, Derek Mason,
last night. I didn't even know he was a Lakers fan.
Oh, he loves the Lakers.
He loves
I texted him and said, what do you think about this move? And he said, well, they get some outside shooting, which is something they need. So,
Westbrook didn't fit there. It just wasn't a fit. They just needed to move on.
Yeah, no, I agree. When they got him and they, added some of these other older players around LeBron, I was like, this team would have been great in 2008, but
Mm-hmm.
not now. But you got, I mean, all these moves that are happening are for teams that are kind of on the cusp of, going for it and making a run. Like, Phoenix, I think, is like 5th in their division or something like, or in the conference. Lakers are kind of right down there.
Nick's favorite, well, and then Steph Curry is obviously hurt, so the Warriors haven't been doing really well. But Nick's Sacramento Kings and my guy Kevin Huerter and De'Aaron Fox up there, they're the 3rd in the West right now. I think Boston's the most complete team in the East. I think they'll definitely make another deep run again with Jason Tatum at the helm. But yeah, really kind of getting into the fun part of basketball. As football's kind of rounding out, we got the Super Bowl this weekend. You know me, I love my basketball. So a month, got the SEC tournament here. The NBA's starting to really get rolling, especially now that the free agency deadline is today. The trade deadline is today. Crazy moves. I woke up, I was very confused.
Nobody will know this, but hey, light the beam, okay? Light the beam.
I think I'm assuming that's a Sacramento.
It is, yes. That's what they say when they win.
Light the
I
beam.
hope so. I was hoping it had something to do with them.
Don't they light up a bridge or something, or a beam? Don't they light that up purple in the city?
Yeah, so there's a big old light on top of the arena, and it just goes straight up.
Oh, love that.
Very cool.
Shout out
I
Kevin
will.
Huerter.
I mean, I will say and ask this at the same time, because we kind of got off on an NBA tangent. We'll get to GM's comments in a minute, but like, obviously, I like the Grizzlies. I've kept up with the Grizzlies. I know that they're a good team. They're 2nd in the West right now behind Denver, 4.5 games back. I think they have a very good chance to make a run this year with that team led by Ja Morant. But overall, being in a non-NBA market, I've always kind of felt like the people really care about the NBA around here. I know there's a few, Sean Fort, our sales director, is a Memphis guy and would tell me that, we need to talk more Grizzlies. But it's not that I dislike the NBA. I went to a game earlier this year, saw the Mavs, no Luka playing that night. Of course, I always get the load management nights whenever I go to an NBA
That
game.
is frustrating.
In my life, I've been to like 7 NBA games, and 5 of them, the star player has been out because of load management. And I'm like, this is why I don't go to NBA games. This is why I don't care, because every time I go and spend my money, well, I don't always spend my money on it, but every time I go, it's like the guy I want to see isn't even going to play. Like, I had courtside seats because my cousin worked for the
sorry,
Mavericks.
what?
Hang on. Let me tell this story. This is a good one. My cousin used to work for the Mavericks. All right. He was high up in the Mavericks. And
Mark Cuban?
he was his number 2. They were like really good friends. They went to college together.
Damn.
And
Slight flex.
oh yeah. So I'm in town for New Year's with, visiting family and everything in Fort Worth. And I'm like, and the Predators happen to be in town. And so I'm talking to Willie and Pete and that whole crew, and it's like, yeah, we're going to go to the Mavs game. And they're playing the Warriors. And this is when the Warriors weren't losing. This was the year that they only lost 9 games. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm in. And I told my cousin, I was like, hey, I'm going to go to the Mavs game. Would love to say hi. And he goes, well, hey, I'll leave you a ticket. And I'm like, well, I'm good. We're just getting credentialed and everything. He goes, no, I got you. Go get a ticket. So I go to Will Call and pick up the ticket. I'm like, hey, thanks, appreciate it. And I'm thinking, comps and stuff. And I look at it and it says face value $783. And I go, wait, what?
I feel like that's cheap now.
Yeah, it probably is. But it's second row courtside. So I tell Willie and everybody, I'm like, I got to go check this seat out, man. I'm sorry. So I
keep going. Sorry.
I sat for the first half. I sat down for the first half, and Dirk was still playing, and got to get a picture of him, but Steph didn't play, so it was one of the 9 games that Golden State lost because the Mavs weren't very good then. It was one of the 9 games they lost because Steph didn't play.
Oh, that's so frustrating. I saw one player didn't play the other day, and a little kid had a sign or something and was like, my first NBA game, I can't wait to. I don't know if it was. Maybe it was Jimmy Butler. I think it was Jimmy Butler. He didn't play. And then Jimmy Butler, like somebody saw him who worked for the team and they were able to get him other tickets, which is great. But see, that's the hard thing is, I mean, you can say that really in a lot of different sports. Basketball is specific, but you buy a ticket and you spend a lot of money, and then for them to be sitting out or something or get injured and not be able to play, like, it is frustrating. You understand, but also, does your cousin want to be my best friend?
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work for the Mavs anymore.
Darn. Worth a shot.
I know. Yeah, but it was certainly cool. All right, I promise GM comments on the Titans and their quarterback situation. We will do that coming up next after our NBA tangent. It's Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Join Robbie and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jared Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jared Companies. For more, visit JaredCompaniesInc.com. The choice is yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
All right, I've been talking about Hair Club. They are the proud sponsor of Chase and Michelle here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I wanted to do something about my thinning hair, my power outages, so I gave Hair Club a call. No matter what the situation may be, if you need restoration, regrowth, small problems, big problems, whatever, they have the answers, and they're tailor-made just for you because everyone is different. So you give them a call, go in for a free consultation, and they'll help you out with whatever your hair situation may be. Fill out the form at hairclub.com/chase. That's my name, CHASE, to schedule your free consultation. And they'll give you 10% off if you happen to purchase anything just because you listen to me and I sent you. Or you can text my name, Chase, CHASE, to 694-247. That's 694-247. It's Hair Club. Love your hair. Live your life.
Hey folks, it's Joe Rexford here for FanDuel Sportsbook, and this is the only app you need at your Super Bowl party. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You download FanDuel now and use promo code Joe102. You can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. This means you'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. FanDuel, of course, lets you bet on everything from moneyline point spreads, who's going to score a touchdown, any player props. You can also combine them for a same-game parlay. If I was looking at this Super Bowl, one thing that I feel good about Jalen Hurts over on rushing yards. That's the game prop the player prop in this game that I like. This is all, of course, on a top-rated sportsbook app, safe, secure, very important for me, super easy to use. Best of all, you can get paid your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today with promo code Joe102. Claim that no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And you must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online room and wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as now-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789.
You can trek through the savannas of Africa. Wait on the magic moment on the Great Plains of North America. Or find the thrills of Patagonia. You can book your dream hunt at the SEI Convention, coming to Nashville for the very first time. Come find your adventure February 22nd through February 25th. It's the ultimate sportsman's market, a place for every hunter. And this year, it's happening Music City style, with special performances by Lee Brice, Big and Rich, The Frontman with Gretchen Wilson, and of course, Leonard Skinner. It's a celebration of the outdoor lifestyle, February 22nd through February 25th. Come find your adventure. Just log on to safariclub.org. One more time, that's safariclub.org. This convention will sell out, so reserve your spot today. Come find your adventure.
Can't get enough Vanderbilt basketball?
Intercepted right all by himself for a one-hand flush.
Your home for the Commodores is 93.3 Classic Hits.
Put it up. It's good. Count it.
Join Coach Jerry Stackhouse and his team on their journey through the SEC.
Pulls a trigger. Yes, from 3.
Check out Vandy Hoops on 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app. Taking you through your mid-morning.
Love it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. This is Chase and Michelle, presented by Hair Club. Hair Club. Love your hair. Live your life.
Where'd you find those crazy characters?
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Let's start with Tannehill. What do you make of him and his standing with the Titans?
Well, look, I was watching him this year, and I thought, it's funny. He's got a consistent element to him that is attractive for any of us. I don't feel the real highs and where one of the things that I thought was how I would describe the Titans were they were just had an even keel. They weren't stars. They didn't have all this massive explosiveness. They had obviously some people that were really good football players. Mm-hmm. One was traded away, and I know J-Rob took a lot of heat for that. I get that. They have a great running back. They have some nice players across the board. But I just think Tannehill, I think the idea of making plays and the guy that you can count on when it is true, cut in time, that's an important thing that you're going to have to decipher, I think. I think he's a good football player in this league. You need good football players, but Bill Belichick did it. He capitalized on where those guys were good, and then he accentuated where they were even better, and that's important. For a quarterback, if you can't win the big games, if you can't be resilient, take the shots all over the place and come back in and win the game, then I think it's important for you to look at your situation.
That is Thomas Dimitroff, former Falcons general manager, yesterday with Stillman and Company on Radio Row. That's where Jared is this week. And Radio Row presented by Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in the Richland Creek Shopping Center. Pay no money down and no interest for 1 year right now during their tax refund sale. Back here on Chase and Michelle. And I wanted to play those comments, Michelle, because Thomas Dimitroff is somebody that I'm a big fan of, and a lot of that has to do with Floyd. He and Floyd went way back. They worked together and crossed paths a lot, both with the Patriots and various other teams. But Thomas Dimitroff, I thought, did a fine job in Atlanta, got that team to the Super Bowl with Dan Quinn. Obviously, we know what happened. It didn't work out, and eventually they moved on from him. But I think he's a smart football guy, and so when he talks, I'd had yesterday, and if you missed that, it's at thegamenashville.com. Very good interview with Thomas Dimitroff. But I thought he made some very fair comments when it comes to the Titans' current quarterback situation with Ryan Tannehill.
No, Chase, I agree. And I think the way he laid it out is kind of how we've been discussing him, right? I mean, what do you want to see from this team next year? They're going to want to win. Mike Vrabel does not want to go through a rebuild because we've talked about how both sides of the ball are at completely different positions. And with Ryan Tannehill, you can know that he's a consistent, good football player, but is he that great quarterback who can help elevate other positions? No, he's not. That's why we always discuss having to be great around him and having to have multiple position groups that are at a higher level so that you can win in the postseason. Whereas the Chiefs, they can afford to have a little bit of below average receiving core because they have Patrick Mahomes. Whereas in this situation, you're kind of just a little bit above average, a little bit below average, but you're pretty consistent. You have winning seasons. You've been able to win the AFC South because the division hasn't been too good, but we've laid out the fact that it's getting better. Jacksonville is on the up. Houston just got a new coach, probably going to draft a young quarterback. So where do you go? Where do you go with that? Do you stay kind of with Ryan Tannehill, or do you make a splashy move to go get an Aaron Rodgers? I mean, we talked a lot about that this morning. If you are going to get Aaron Rodgers and you can get him here for 2 years, you are in full-blown go-for-it mode.
Yeah, well, and that's the next part of this and also for people that may not know this, when Thomas Dimitroff was the general manager of the Falcons, he hired Ran Carthon to be a part of his staff. So he and Ran Carthon know each other very well. He was very complimentary of Ran Carthon and the hire that the Titans made. So that's another reason, that I wanted to listen to Thomas. But Jared, of course, took it to that point of if Ran Carthon calls Thomas Dimitroff and says, hey, what do you think? Should I go after Aaron Rodgers? This is what Dimitroff said.
If he called you and said, I can make a deal for Rodgers, it'll cost me the 11th overall pick, and I'm going to have to take on $30 million extra at the quarterback position, but I get Rodgers over Tannehill, what would your advice to Ran be?
My advice would, you have to dig down. I think Aaron Rodgers is one of the best to ever play. I think he is really, really talented. Does he still have it? Does he still want it? With all of this other stuff, he's a mature guy, of course, but he's got all of these vision quests that he's going on. I don't want to overplay that, but as a GM, you would go down every alleyway trying to figure out exactly what he is before. I'm not worried about the talent and his ability to huck the ball and do things. I'm not worried about even his leadership ability. He has, of course, born leadership elements. I know some people he might agitate. I just want to know where his head is. If he's only coming there for a year or two, oh my God! When I traded for Tony Gonzalez, I told his agent, you better effing tell me the truth here. I am not going to be in this if he's going to be with me for 1 year because I will be fired. Mm-hmm. Where Rand is right now, he needs to be very, very clear that he's not moving on from a guy who's a good, solid guy and going to a guy that after a year is looking to, pull up his tent and go. That's an important thing.
I think that is 100% spot on. And that's something, Michelle, we've been talking about. And what I love about Thomas Dimitroff is he doesn't sugarcoat it, and he's not going to give you GM speak. He's telling you exactly what the conversation would be. But like you talk to Rodgers, you talk to the agent, you say, hey, if we're going to do this and make this commitment, then you got to make this commitment back. And Vrabel's going to have to deal with his BS and what comes with Aaron Rodgers. But if it's like, hey, I'm in this, I've been saying 2, if he's in this for 2 to 3 years, then yeah, then maybe you consider it, and that's the window. But I 100% agree. If you're only going to get him for a year, it's not worth it.
No, it's not worth it because like Jared laid out in the question, it's going to be an extra $30 million. You're going to be close to $60 million for Aaron Rodgers. But if it is the 2 years, that gives you time. And in this Super Bowl push, it gives you time for the draft next year. You're losing that 11th round pick or 11th pick in the first round, but you're taking on a lot of extra cap. I don't know why, but when I was listening to that Thomas Dimitroff clip, I pictured him holding Tony Gonzalez's agent by the shoulders and shaking him, saying, "Tell me the truth. Because if you don't, I'm going to get fired." Like, I don't know why I just, envision that in my head, but it's so true. I mean, Rand needs to be very clear in his communication if they are reaching out to Aaron Rodgers' team, because you don't want to get screwed in your first season and have all that money that is owed to Aaron Rodgers and him only be like, I'm going to be here for a year and then I think I'm going to retire. The communication needs to be clear, but you have a solid option right now. So you need to be sure with the communication as far as talking to Rodgers' front, because I think you definitely look into it. As he laid out, Aaron Rodgers is going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks ever. There's no arguing that. He has the skill. He's a great quarterback. But if he is only here for 1 year and wants to throw in the towel and just wants one more go for it, it's not in the cards for this team, and I think it would be a bad financial decision.
Well, and we know Aaron Rodgers is going to go sit in a dark house by himself for a few days.
That is very interesting.
I thought about that, and I'm like, I could probably – I mean, there are times I will sit in silence. Like, I'll drive in silence. It just it clears my head.
But for 4 days in the dark?
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it for 4 days.
So he can leave if he wants. Yeah.
I mean, I guess he could go outside and – stuff like that. But I'm like, what, do you talk to yourself? Because I would do that. I will have conversations with myself if I'm, just
out loud or in your head?
Yeah, out loud.
Really?
I'll talk stuff out. Yeah, it just helps me. It helps me think, if I'm dealing with something or thinking through an issue, I will talk to myself.
Thinking through a relationship issue.
Something like that. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, but I don't know if I could do it for 4 days, in the dark.
So I looked it up, and some of them are in Croatia. I don't know which one he's specifically going to, but some of them you do like pottery in the dark and exercise in the dark and different things like that, where it's more of at a specific center. But from some of the comments on the Pat McAfee show describing it, it was really in a room, and his isn't like that. He will have a toilet and he will be able to get food, but I'm very curious as to if there is a bed.
I could see him just sitting in a chair for 4 days.
Or just crisscross applesauce on the floor.
Well, so I heard him say on the Pat McAfee show, I listened to the whole interview for the most part, and he said he'll have a bed and a toilet, and he's going to be in a single room, and they're going to slide down meals to him. It sounds like he's in jail, if you ask me.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like he's in
solitary confinement.
This is like straight out of Shawshank Redemption.
No phone, none of that.
I would need a guitar. I could probably do it if they let me have my guitar.
Listen,
which I mean, I'm volunteering to do this, so I guess I can have whatever I
was
want.
in a 1-bedroom apartment when I had COVID and was on quarantine for 2 weeks, and I was calling people left and right, pacing. Oh my gosh, I was so bored. And I had all that stuff.
I could see you do like you would not do well with that.
I'd be doing cartwheels in there by myself.
You're too much of a social butterfly.
Exactly.
So
well, that'll be interesting. I can't wait to hear from him after the 4 days. That's what I'm looking forward to.
It'll be good. No doubt about it. Coming up next, we'll get into some comments that A.J. Brown made in reference to the Titans. We'll do that on Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Want the latest on college football and Nashville sports?
He looks like 1,000 quarterbacks I've seen in a college game.
Join Outkick 360's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company.
The coaching staff kept him and got rid of the other guys.
He'll bring opinions and charisma for a full half hour every week.
If he's so great in the locker room, then give him a coaching gig.
Chad Withrow is presented by Two Rivers Ford. Custom order your new Ford from Two Rivers Ford on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Just 3 days away from the final championship in Arizona. And listen, I'm getting so excited about this game. We got Eagles, Chiefs. I do think the two best teams in the NFL right now. But it's a pick'em. Eagles are only favored by 1.5. Both quarterbacks have had health issues, but I am going to give the slight edge to the Eagles, and I'm going to take them minus the 1.5. And there's no better place to wager on that than Superbook Sports. And they feature some of the best menu props in the business. Plus, you can check out their special odds boosts and promotions at superbook.com. I'm also loving the over in this game. It's 50.5 right now. And Superbook has over 3 decades of odds-making experience in Las Vegas, so there's no better place to wager than Superbook Sports. Win some money as one lucky team wins the championship. Download the Superbook Sportsbook app today and visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Imagine her delight when she unwraps a luxurious spa day from A Moment's Peace, the ultimate day spa and salon in Cool Springs. A spa gift card lets her pick whatever she wants, and whether you spend a little or go lavish, you're a thoughtful romantic this Valentine's Day. But time's running very short. Call 224-0770. A Moment's Peace in Cool Springs across I-65 from Galleria Mall at the intersection of Carruthers Parkway and Bakers Bridge Avenue. Call or click right now. 224-0770. Online at amomentspeace.com.
Golfers, tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops and go farther and faster with the new G430 woods and irons from Ping. The Ping G430 woods introduce the next generation of speed with new face technology for longer and more accurate shots. The new Ping G430 irons are designed with pure flex technology for faster ball speed and more distance. Swing into Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit on the new Ping G430 woods and irons today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
I got some good news.
juice.
Taking you through your mid-morning, this is Chase and Michelle, presented by Hair Club. Hair Club, love your hair, live your life. On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What do you think about the fact that you made it to the Super Bowl and they didn't even make the playoffs this year? Titans.
I have no comment on that. It would be a question from you.
There you go. That is Jared Stillman with A.J. Brown, Eagles wide receiver, at Super Bowl Media Night a few days ago. Back here, Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We're presented by Hair Club. Regrow your own natural hair through non-surgical options that deliver impressive results. Learn more at hairclub.com/chase. And, Jared, of course, would ask that question. I think it's a fair question. And as we talked about the other day, I think AJ should have taken that as an opportunity to say a little more than he did. That's my personal opinion. Your personal opinion is he took the high road. Michelle, sometimes the low road is more fun.
No.
I'm just
for us, maybe, or for people to, jump on him. But I also didn't know we had the audio of that. Sorry, Robbie and Joe, if you're listening, I didn't know we had the audio of that. That's the first time I heard it. That's actually funny.
Yeah.
AJ's laughing. He's like, of course you'd ask me that.
Yeah, I think more has come out because I know Jimmy Wyatt posted some stuff on Twitter of him talking, and he did a nice article on TennesseeTitans.com about AJ, and AJ has taken the high road, with this. I mean, he did say, quote, a lot of guys reached out to me. Coach Vrabel reached out to me. I have no hard feelings for nobody in Tennessee. There's nothing but love, and they are still showing me love too. Of course, I wish the organization well. I have teammates and friends on that team, so I want them to succeed. Which I respect that. I'm a little tongue in cheek on, go ahead and rub it in. I mean, he won. Like, let's just be honest. Like, I don't know if they're sitting at home right now. I don't know if all this love is going around because AJ's a competitor and he does have that chip on his shoulder. I mean, that was the thing that I always really liked about him. I didn't always agree with his, how he did his Twitter and stuff like that. But, D-Mace says it best. Dude had dog in him. Like, he had a chip on his shoulder. Like, he had hey, hold my beer, watch this, because I think he had to work. He's a guy that puts in the work. And obviously a very talented player. I think he's going to be a huge factor in the Super Bowl on Sunday. But, we're getting to the point. I think some people might think we've been at the point where we don't need to talk about A.J. Brown anymore, but it is relevant. He's playing in the Super Bowl. That is, the worst possible case scenario when John Robinson made that trade. So, I mean, that's kind of is what it is. But, even Mike Vrabel's quoted in the piece saying, quote, I put a lot of time with these guys. If you do it the right way, you can still have a relationship after they are on someone else's team. AJ and I spent a lot of time together and shared a lot of personal conversations. Of course, I wish the best for him, end quote. And Mike Vrabel was very disappointed when they had to trade AJ Brown because they were close.
Yeah, I mean, those two, think about it. AJ came here. Mike Vrabel was all he knew in the NFL. He got drafted with the Tennessee Titans, but Mike Vrabel is not he knows that he wanted to keep him, and I'm sure he's told AJ that, I tried, but at the end of the day, I got overruled. It was pretty clear by his comments he's made, the relationship they had, and in the video of him, walking out, having to take a minute during the NFL draft last year. And, the unfortunate for this organization, but that trade will go down as one of the biggest altering moves, I think you could say. I mean, it got John Robinson. I personally believe that is what got John Robinson fired. There were other things, but if that trade didn't happen, I don't think he would have been fired this year. I truly don't. I don't, because
I agree.
And that trade will probably haunt this organization for a while until you find that next elite wide receiver that can perform at the level he did for this team, or draft one, right? He is going to have a great career, I believe, in the NFL. I mean, he's in the Super Bowl right now. So, the way I look at it is good for AJ. I know we disagree on this, but, doing the interview with Jim, saying, taking the high road for it, because he's going to come. He doesn't care about, well, he does let the outside noise affect him sometimes, but he's my age. Like, if I was in the limelight like that and people saying all this stuff, it gets to anybody, and you really have to train yourself to ignore it or delete social media. That's why I feel like a lot of times we don't see players with social media. Think about this league 15 years ago. They didn't have Brady couldn't have people tweeting at him or commenting things left and right. Even Vrabel, it's probably an adjustment for him too. But just the ability to tweet at people and contact them and see all this stuff about people. Think about Dennis Daly if he ever went on Twitter. I see some stuff and I'm like, damn, I get it. Not a good player, but
no,
tough.
And they need to move on from him. But look, we've said this, these guys are human too. So you got to respect that. But I agree with what you said. I don't think J-Rob is fired if he doesn't make that trade. I also think that during the interview process with Ran Carthon, maybe it wasn't specifically these words of you have to fix the AJ trade. You have to correct that. And look, I don't know how you rectify that other than Treylon Burks has to, turn out to be really, really good. But I think it was probably more along the lines of roster, because that was her reasoning, that the roster wasn't good. That's basically what she said. And, so I think that's where Carthon and Vrabel are going to have to put their heads together and do an overhaul of this roster. And I expect it. Look, I expect that to happen. I think this roster is going to look very different when they report to training camp coming up this July. I think you're going to see there's going to be some moves that make us all go, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree, Chase. And Amy Adams Strunk made it very clear that what they were looking for was an elite talent evaluator. And you fire your GM halfway through the season, it's a roster problem. We brought up the comment from Adam Brown on Twitter saying, they were sending a message that this team wasn't good enough halfway through the season. This team's roster wasn't good enough. And they fired a head coach who had a winning season for them. Didn't have many or any losing seasons, correct? Am I correct on that, John Robinson?
Correct, yeah.
Didn't have any, right? And that is, leaps and bounds from where this organization was when they first came to Nashville. So
I guess technically you count this one as a losing season.
Yeah,
but
that's why I was kind of like, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you count this one, but once he got fired, they didn't win a game again. It clearly was, a distraction for this team because the message was that this roster wasn't good enough. Think about all those guys in the locker room, and it's like, oh, damn, that's the boss who hired me. That's who wanted me on this roster. I'm nervous for my job security on this team. Anytime a GM gets fired, let alone in season, it's sending a message that this team wasn't good enough and they didn't make the correct moves to get the players to win.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to fix that, and that is going to be their task moving forward. Coming up next, we'll talk some college hoops. Casey Alexander, Belmont basketball coach, going to join us to wrap things up here on Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
This is Tanner Janot, and this is Smashville.
And now down the right wing side, Tanner Janot. His shot, he scored! Tanner Janot with the shot!
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network. ESPN 1025, The Game.
The final drive for the championship is here, and there's no better place to wager on the football title tilt than Superbook Sports. Superbook features the best menu of prop bets in the business. Plus, you can check out their special odds boosts and promotions over at superbook.com. With over 3 decades of odds-making experience in Las Vegas, there's not a better place to go than my friends at Superbook. Win some money as one lucky team will win the championship. Is it Philadelphia? Is it Kansas City? Philly is a 1.5 point favorite right now. But I'll tell you the number that I like. I like that over under 51, and I am leaning towards the over. I think that could be the play on Sunday in the big game. Download the Superbook Sports app today. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Hey, Robbie Stanley here, and I'm telling you, this year the only app you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Download FanDuel now and use promo code ROB so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. I'm going with Philly in this matchup, and I'll go with Jalen Hurts as an anytime touchdown scorer running the ball. But you take it any way you want to take it, all on a top-rated sportsbook app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you can get paid your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today with promo code ROB to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
It's Quaz with Little Harpeth, and I'm just having one of our Chicken Scratch American Pilsners. It's one refreshing beer and a good example of the German lagers that we craft right here in Nashville. Chicken Scratch is made with locally sourced raw white corn, giving it a subtle cornbready sweetness. And speaking of sweetness, Chicken Scratch's closest associate goes by the name of Deer Crossing Hellas, also a lager with a light, crisp body and golden color, and it won us a gold medal at the Great American Beer Festival. So be on the lookout for our craft loggers. And as always, thank you for supporting our little brewery.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. We have a team committed to helping you navigate the court system, whether you've been accused of a crime or you're going through a messy divorce and custody. Call our team to help you navigate this system. We are here to protect your rights, to demand your rights, to enforce your rights. 615-604-6263. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas.
Well, you've got the whole world listening. What do you got to say?
You're listening to Chase and Michelle, presented by Hair Club. Hair Club, love your hair, live your life. On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's Love Week on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, presented by A Moment's Peace Day Salon and Day Spa in Cool Springs. Tune in to Robbie and Rexroad tomorrow morning between 6 and 9 for details on how you could win a $100 gift card to A Moment's Peace Day Salon and Day Spa in Cool Springs and qualify for a chance to win a $1,000 Genesis Diamonds gift card. These stories have been fantastic. Michelle, you get to be the judge on all of these, which I think is so appropriate.
Yes, I do. It's so fun. So today was tell us your favorite thing about your significant other. So that was a good one. And then tomorrow, we already previewed it a little bit on the show. We said, you're going to have to tell us what is the most annoying thing your partner does or gets under your skin. So that'll be a great final question.
Are you going to answer those questions?
The best thing about Ryan is that we go to a lot of sporting events together. That's my on-air answer. Andy wears Kentucky gear when he goes to. That's our deal. I wear Bears stuff when I go to Bears games with him or Chicago sporting events, and then he is required to wear Kentucky gear.
Okay,
I think that's fair.
It was good to see Ryan from Chicago last night at the Nash Vegas event.
Yeah, we actually we got a photo booth photo with UC Saros and Kevin Lankinen. So that's a beauty that I'm going to put in the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. I'll put it near our bobbleheads.
Oh, I like that. I have a picture a few years ago. Haley St. John from the Buzz, who was a good friend of mine. We went to this event, and it was like a cowboy theme.
Ooh.
So we have a picture with PK Subban and Roman Yossi, and they're wearing cowboy hats.
Oh, I love it. I
pretty
love
funny.
that. That is fun.
We had a texter earlier in the show asking us to talk more about Nash Vegas. I mean, it was awesome. This is my favorite event that the Preds Foundation puts on, because I like to gamble. So I did sit down at the blackjack table for a little bit, and it was funny. I actually ran into Yossi and was talking to him, and he was like, "Have you played it all?" And I said, I sat down for a little bit. I lost $2,000 in fake money, and then I felt bad about myself, and so I walked away. So it's
hey,
kind
at
of
least
funny.
it was fake. At least it was fake.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it was cool. They had some great food that kind of finger foods that you could walk around and have a beer, what have you, play the games. It was very low key, which I like. That's what I like about this event, and the players could kind of mix and mingle, and the coaches. And so very well done by the Predators and the Preds Foundation to put that on, and it's obviously for a great cause. So what they do with that organization is top notch. So a fun night, and glad that you and Ryan could go.
Yeah, no, so excited. It was the first time I got to go to this because I was actually talking to John Hines. He said it was his first chance to go to this too because he got hired in 2020. They haven't had it since pre-COVID in a full version like this. So really awesome. It was cool to see the players being able to interact with the fans, kind of walking around. One thing I didn't have a chance to do because there was a line was play Mario Kart, which a little sad. I didn't get to beat somebody in Mario Kart. But yeah, great event that they put on. We love the gambling aspect of it. And I mentioned to you how as I was kind of leaving, I noticed that the Vanderbilt-Tennessee game was very close. Yes. So I got to watch the final play on my iPhone, and I was like, jaw drop moment.
Yeah, and that great transition because shout out to Jerry Stackhouse, who's going to join Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace today at 11:30 to talk about that game. So about 40 minutes from now, he will be on our airwaves, and looking forward to hearing that conversation because they played a great game. They were in it the whole way. I ran into Darren McFarland, who'd done Smashville Live, and I was like, dude, Vandy's beating Tennessee. And he's like, no way. And I said, no, they are. It's a close game. And ended up winning it at the buzzer. And so it was obviously something that we were all keeping up with last night that's his biggest win as a head coach at Vanderbilt, a signature win. What does it mean for the Vols? And I said earlier, I want this to be positive about Vandy and not negative about the Vols. I think Tennessee's going to be fine, but this is a part of, one, it's a tough league, and Memorial is a tough place to play. And two, this is where I question Rick Barnes. Get your guys focused. I mean, it's a fantastic win for Vanderbilt, but that's a game that Tennessee should have won.
I agree.
And so, if you are looking ahead to the tournament and those things and trying to gauge where Tennessee can be, because right now I would tell you that Tennessee could very well be a Final Four team and should be in that conversation. But you can't lose to Florida. You can't lose to Vanderbilt. You can't lose to these teams that on paper you are better than. And so those are some things that obviously you have to get turned around. But on the other side of things, as Willie and I, happy birthday, Willie, by the way.
Best birthday gift.
Yeah, we were talking about is that when they're healthy and they're all together, Vandy can play with just about anybody. And I think that is a fair statement. But it's like the Predators, you have to get consistency.
Yeah, no, Chase, I completely agree. On the Vols side of things for a second, they have the talent to win a national championship. They have beaten some of the teams that will be in, the last couple weekends of March and who will be competing for a national championship this year. The talent is not the question. It's sometimes in moments like these, you almost feel like they choke, and it's not having to rely so much on their guards to make three-pointers, and when they're having a night where they're just not shooting well, not having another guy who can take over the game. And at the end of the game, Julian Phillips, a freshman, big mistake. He had a wide-open layup but was trying to run the clock down, didn't take it. Vanderbilt still had fouls to give. Then Vescovy misses the foul shot, and Vanderbilt is able to have 4 seconds left, and Jerry Stackhouse or whoever drew up the play was it was a great play to draw up, made the 3, got it out of his hands just seconds before the shot clock went off, and we know what happened from there. As Vanderbilt, the team is, I would say their odds of making the tournament, it's still hard. They would essentially have to win out, but a chance to get in the NIT. Some of those early season losses hurt them, but it is a good team. They just need to be more consistent. But I agree with you, Chase. This game for Tennessee could hurt them as far as getting a 1 seed. This was a game that they needed to win. I feel like sometimes they play to their competition.
You see that too much.
You see that too much, right? They handled Texas. Texas is a top team in the country. They beat Kansas earlier this year, right? They've had these huge wins. They barely
beat Auburn.
I was just going to say that was, that set offensive basketball back about 15 years. But yeah, they beat Auburn the other day. But then when you play a Vanderbilt, and listen, I'm not taking anything away from Vanderbilt, but Tennessee had mistakes that they can't have a month from now. So you do have a month. So Tennessee fans, you have a month to figure this out. They got Missouri up next, and then they have Alabama coming into Thompson Bowling, which is going to be a huge matchup.
Yeah, and that's the measuring stick game. How do you play? You had a measuring stick game against Texas, which was obviously a big win for them because Texas is playing well. And then now you get to play Alabama here in a couple games. Beat Alabama, then I think that obviously fixes a lot of things, but Alabama is really, really good. And then, by the way, you got a rematch with Kentucky at Rupp.
Ooh, the SEC as a whole, Kentucky's struggled this season, but Texas A&M is a solid team. Arkansas has a 5-5 in-conference record, but when they played in Rupp the other night, that team, their point guard, they're a good team, and Eric Musselman has showed what he can do with this team in the postseason. I think they'll be a threat. We've talked about Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee. Vanderbilt, this SEC tournament coming up in a month, I'm so excited for, and it'll be exciting to see how many SEC teams will get into the tournament this year, Chase.
I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it, and obviously we'll have a lot of coverage from there. But then, on the other side, I saw Vandy play against Memphis earlier this year. Obviously, that was the first game of the year, and they didn't look good. But now they've put back-to-back wins together against Ole Miss and Tennessee. They'll go to Florida on Saturday. You can hear that on 93.3 Classic Hits. I think that's one they could have.
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
That's one they could totally have. And if all of a sudden they've won 3 in a row in the SEC, then you're feeling good. You're feeling confident. But long way to go for both teams, so we'll see how it all shakes out for sure. But good to see some good college hoops. The NBA trade deadlines today, going to be some moves. Obviously already been some big moves, so we'll keep you updated on all of that. That is going to do it for us. We're back at it tomorrow at 9. Jerry Stackhouse going to join Caroline Willie and D-Mace coming up at 11:30. They're next on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he gets lonely and needs some company.
10 for 17 for 45 yards in his career with 1 interception.
This is one of those years where it's a step back for them.
And that'll create more one-on-one situations and make it easier for him to throw the ball down the field.
It's Stillman and Company.
You've got real talent.
With Jared Stillman. Weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.